a huge factor in selecting paint colors is the lighting in your space. I would say absolutely never go to the store, pick out paint samples, and choose your paint color at the store, because the lighting in that store most likely is going to be way different than it is in your actual home. So if you come home with that paint that you chose in the store and you put it on the walls, most likely it's going to look completely different, because a lot of these big box stores lighting is kind of a daylight fluorescent. Daylight lighting is very clean, stark, and has a little blue to it, and so when it's gonna make that paint color look cooler than it actually would under a warmer lighting. So what I do when I go to the store to choose paint colors, say I'm choosing a gray and I want the perfect gray, but I'm not exactly sure on the shade, and I know that when I'm at that store the colors are looking way different than they're gonna in my home. What I always do is pick out a ton of paint samples in different shades, which means different lights and darknesses of gray, and leaning towards different colors, like leaning a little bit more towards warm grays, leaning a little bit more towards cool grays. I make sure I cover the spectrum and come home with many samples. Then when I get home, I take the samples and I put them up on the wall, and then I look at that sample and see, okay, what do I think of it? You know, do I like how bright it is? Is it too bright? Is it too cool or too warm? And really try to focus just on that paint sample, because the paint sample, so the color that your wall is currently behind that little paint sample is going to also affect the way that you're looking at that paint sample. So really try to focus on that paint sample and how your lighting in the room is affecting that. So, and don't just hold it up in one spot. Make sure you go all around your room and hold it up in different areas, because it's going to look different around your home in different areas. So I should say it's going to look different around that space that you're planning on painting. The other thing I like to do is I like to tuck it under the decorations that you already have on your walls and just see how it affects the look of your decorations. Do I like it? Or, oh, it's too dark, it's going to make the shelf blend into the wall too much, so I need to go with lighter shade. Hold it down towards your trim, if it's wood trim or white trim, and see how you like it against that. Hold it and make sure you are holding it vertical, because you're painting the walls, you're not painting the floor. A paint sample sitting on a tabletop is going to look different than a paint sample that's up against the wall. So really make sure that you're holding the paint samples on the surface at the angle that they're going to be viewed, because that's going to give you the most accurate look at what the paint color is actually going to look like and how it's going to react with the lighting that you have in your home. I would go into further details on lighting. I would actually like to make a separate video on how to choose lighting, because it's such a big topic and there's a lot of different things to consider and to cover in it. So for this video, I'll just stick with the, make sure you're aware of how the paint colors react with the lighting you have in your home. One other thing I can say about choosing lighting, one other thing I can say about choosing the paint colors per lighting in your home is, if you have a warmer toned, like say incandescent, which is the old school light bulbs, say you have those for the lighting in your home, so it's a very nice warm light, and then you have a big huge window, or like in this room, a patio door that has light blasting in from outside. The light coming in from outside is a lot cooler in tone than the lighting that you have in your home if you have that warm lighting. And so this paint color is going to look different next to, on the wall that's closest to the window, than it will across the room, you know, where it's being more affected by the lighting of your warm light fixtures. And so that's just something to keep in mind and realize, is the lighting is going to affect this wall color differently around the entire room too. So I wasn't going to go into detail on different paint brands, because I find that people kind of have their paint brand that they love already, and you know, every paint brand has their pros and cons. So just when you're choosing paint, do your research, check it out. There's things to consider too, like some paint can cover nicely in just one coat. Other paints you have to paint over a few times. Usually the paint that covers more in one coat, like the one coat paints, usually that stuff's a lot more expensive. But for instance, if time is a factor, maybe something to consider, you know, to pay a little bit more to not have to paint the room, you know, a whole bunch of times. Accent walls. So I've heard a lot of people say accent walls are out, you know, we're not doing that anymore because it's just an old thing or what have you. I still do accent walls because I think it's a great way of highlighting a scene in your room. It just draws attention, it makes more of a dramatic impact. Not that I have anything against having all the same colors throughout a space, but I don't think that it is bad to have accent walls. And I think if you have a space that you're worried that a darker paint color is going to make it look too dark, I say then do an accent wall, because it will still give you that dramatic look in part of your space without making your space too dark or seem as small as if you had painted the entire space the dark color. And then the other thing I'll say, I've noticed that wallpaper seems to be coming back into style just a little bit. That is another thing that I think is great for accent walls. If you want to add a very patterned or vibrant or just, it seems like a negative word, but a busier, you know, wallpaper, that is what would be great to do for an accent wall, because if you did it all around your space, it's going to be fighting with all your decorations, and you know, it might be a little too much. But just on an accent wall, I think add the perfect amount of interest in your space. Hopefully I'll have some newer videos out soon. Like I said, I'd like to create a video on how to choose lighting, because it is a really important factor in spaces. And in today's day and age, there are just so many different ones, different kinds to choose from. So hopefully I can get to doing a video about that soon. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. For other home decorating ideas and videos, you can obviously check out my YouTube channel, but also you can look at my website, which is ChristopherHeideman.com.